Okay, good afternoon. We're back in session, and we start off with approval for the Veterans Shuttle Fund transfer and a resolution approval. No, we're going to change. We're going to do something else. So, our Director of Department of Public Works, Jeff Castonguay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I hope you enjoyed your 30-second lunch break.
It was a rush.
All right, Commissioners, we're here today to ask Board of Commissioners for a transfer of funds from the Reserve for Contingency to the Veterans Shuttle Program to continue our services for the remainder of fiscal year 19. The Veterans Shuttle Program has been growing over the past years with a 37% increase in FY 17-18, and an increase in both hours and service and ridership over the past 6 months, primarily for door-to-door services. We have many veterans who, through our vetting process, through citizen services, are deemed unable to get to our pickup locations, either by due to a disability or lack of transportation. And this requires earlier start times and later end times for our services and additional vans in order to meet their appointment times as the veterans live in rural parts of our county. We have up to 11 locations where we bring our veterans for services, but we primarily go to Baltimore, Frederick, and Martinsburg. Many of our other locations are Glen Burnie, Gaithersburg, and Washington, D.C., for example. While not many frequent riders go to those locations, do require additional buses or staff to help accommodate those time frames for those specialty appointments. As stated in the briefing paper, our contract states that the contractor shall not exceed the approved annual county budget allocation, so this transfer is necessary for the continuation of veteran services for FY19. Our Veterans Shuttle Program continues to grow at this point, where we will need direction from the board in the very near future on where our program is for the coming year, or what we're going to do for the coming years, as this will adversely affect our upcoming budgets. We are in the process of setting up a work session with the board for all parties to sit down around the table and discuss the program in depth. With that being said, we'd like to continue the veteran services as the program is operating today for the remainder of FY19 and ask for a transfer of $40,000 from the Reserve of Contingencies to the Veterans Shuttle account.
How much money do we have in reserve for contingencies right now? I thought we were like bottom out. Ted?
How much money do we have in reserve contingencies approximately?
Well, it would have been budgeted at close to $4 million. I don't think we've done very much with it so far this year.
So the 40,000 won't be, okay.
Oh, no, this will not cause a problem.
Okay.
So I would share that, as you know as well as most, I am a strong advocate for the programs we're running in Carroll County and the community and taking care of our veterans, to include the shuttle service. I do have a concern that we're putting Band-Aids on, a much long-term issue. So we got to look at where do we want to go with these programs and then work very diligently to budget appropriately to meet those demands, as opposed to coming in for, these type of Band-Aids.
Right.
Now, they're going to come up, and I understand that, and I appreciate it, and I'm very supportive of it. But there's still a lot more to do. And one of the things that I do believe we need to do, and I addressed it in the advisory council, I've had discussions in it over time, is look at what the other counties and communities are doing in their shuttle services and their services to those VA clinics and hospitals.
There are none.
There are none. We're it.
Right. So therefore, talking to the other counties and jurisdictions on the program that we're doing and potentially partnering with them and getting some funding is what I'm going to be, working towards. I've shared this with, at one point it was Secretary Chow, and now it's Secretary Owings from Maryland. We are a model for our state and in many things we do for veteran services. I think that other jurisdictions and other counties should take up some of the, you know, resources burden, you know, and work with us. Because if we're going through Baltimore County, or through Howard County, or through Frederick and Gary, or wherever to Martinsburg, you know, there could be potential in resources. So those are things that I'm thinking through as well. You know, so it's really two things.
Right.
One is the Band-Aid approach, which concerns me. Things do come up and we got to address them, but to do better due diligence on long-term budgeting. And then second is looking at how we can work with other jurisdictions on creating a larger model and larger programs for our veterans. So,
You're looking at a regional approach.
absolutely.
All right, and I have to echo some of what you've said here. The Mad Dog Shuttle is a series of vans we put into place, never envisioned the magnitude it would grow to. And I think Mike Mad Dog Sater, who it's named after, would have never envisioned maybe growing to this level, but he was committed to it. And I am firmly committed to it, and our veterans as well, and they deserve that. But you're right, this is a Band-Aid approach, and I think, Commissioner, we have to take this back to the Veterans Council. We have to discuss it, and we just to get a perspective on it and take it out to the next level.
Right. And again, this is an opportunity to discuss this and share our thoughts, not necessarily affecting this one requirement. You know, and we're going to address this, but
Right, and
again,
this is,
it's a platform to be able to work it through. So.
yes, and this is why we're setting up that work session, so we get all the opinions of all the board members and other staff, citizen services at the table. You know, we're just as dedicated. I mean, it's a wonderful service, and we've been very successful with it. The veterans are very appreciative of the trips, of the rides to their for their doctor's appointments, and we do not want to say no to a single veteran. But we're at a point now with the growth happening over the last couple of years of this program. Different things have to be put in place. Full-time drivers set to this program. We'll be looking at vehicle capacity. We're going to be looking at and discussing, is there a cap to the number of riders per day that we can service, or do we have to make sure we have contingency vehicles and staff available? And these are things that we want to work out in the work session. So come next year, when we give you a budget amount, we can have a growth potential built in. We have a budget that'll be set that we can all work with and work from.
No, and that's correct. And the biggest challenge is that we go into what could be called mission creep, and that's continuing to resource something, but we don't have an end state in mind. We don't have, this is what it's going to be at the end of the day. And my concern is we're going to keep building and building and building, and we have a finite amount of discretionary funds to allocate to these type of, programs. Again, I'm 100%, supportive
Right.
of everything we can do for our veterans, but I'm also very aware that there's a lot of programs out there, and we have to be very judgmental, or judicious, I would say. That's why that regional approach, if we can find some other funds from other jurisdictions to add into this program, that's something I want to look at. So,
Ted?
Just want to follow up on a couple things, make sure there's not a misimpression left out here. This was budgeted appropriately for the services that had been planned for. What's changed is the level of service. It wasn't that we missed on the budget. I'm glad Commissioner Rothstein ended up where he did, because I think it will be important for us either to say we're going to fill whatever demand is out there and understand the implications, or decide how much we're willing to spend and then set what demand does that allow us to respond to.
correct.
Okay. So your expenses through December of 18 have been 66,703, and you're anticipating another $76,000 until July the 1st. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. We've been running anywhere between, I'd say, close to $9,000 to $11,000 a month for the services. It just depends on how the appointments align in some certain days, or in a month. And we continue to see an increase of, it's the same number of veterans, but they have requiring more,
Okay.
additional visits or more visits to like Baltimore to,
Right, and that's
Frederick.
fine.
yes.
And I'm sure that we've looked at streamlining some of these trips. Like, for instance, if somebody's scheduled to go on Thursday, but we could put them in on Wednesday when two others are going, are we,
We don't have a control over their doctor's appointments and when specialists can meet with, I know there was some discussion in the past, you know, if we could sit back and try to bunch everybody up on a certain day, but again, we're, you know,
Okay.
they're at the mercy of the doctors or their specialists that they're meeting with at these different facilities. We have no control over that.
Okay.
Ride With Us is here today, Crystal's here from Ride With Us, and Lisa. They work diligently with the program to make sure that they're keeping as efficient as possible, trying to combine the pickups, maximize the number of riders on a bus at a time. The riders typically go into Frederick and Martinsburg. We'll all ride together, and they'll do the first stop in Frederick, then move on to Martinsburg, wait for their appointments to be over. They'll double back over to Frederick, pick up the rest of the riders so we can reduce the number, at least vehicles and drivers and expenses for that operation. And I apologize, not introducing Stacy Nash here with our CTS program.
The return on investment of this program is very high, and I don't want to see a glitch in it, especially as we're in the middle of the program. The expectations are that it's going to continue through this fiscal year, and we want to make sure that it continues through this fiscal year with the same amount of success that it's been having. I think a part of that return on investment, as we're funding this program, is to highlight it to the other counties and the state. Continue to share that we are a model for the state,
Right.
and then work with them on the out years, how we're going to be funding it more, because again, my biggest concern is that mission creep, that we're going to get to a point where it's going to be very hard to say no,
Right.
but we're going to be obligated to. So,
Yeah, and again, special thanks to Ride With Us and their staff and their customer services. They set the bar. They've done a great job with it and work very well with our veterans to make sure they do make every appointment on time. So again, a thank you to them.
Have we ever looked into possibly looking at some state or federal grants for this program? Since it is unique, no one else has it, but perhaps we could contact the state or the federal government and say, look, we're doing this, providing this service, which is a tremendous service, and now because it's such a great service, more and more people are interested in it and using it. However, we could use some help.
Right.
Have we looked into that?
From the Veterans Council meeting, and actually Jason's here today, was debriefing me on there may be an avenue for us to get some reimbursement from the federal government on some of these veterans trips. We have Citizen Services and Stacy and Gina. Gina from Citizen Services will be looking into that.
Great.
I'm glad Commissioner Frazier brought up alternative revenue sources. Excuse my ignorance on the subject, but is there some sort of veteran travel reimbursement program to these individuals that we could potentially capture since we're transporting them? Is there a program to reimburse those individuals, and can we capture that, so to speak?
Right. That's what was brought up here. That was the discussion we had right before you went into session today, and that's the program we're going to be looking into to see if we can actually capture it ourselves.
It is if it's privately handled, right? If a family member drives them, I believe there is a reimbursement, but I'm not sure we're eligible as a county on that.
There are qualifications for the veteran themselves for reimbursement for travel. And after the Veteran Council meeting the other day, we were talking, and I was talking to Gina afterward, and she's going to get in touch with the Baltimore VA and see if there's any way that we can set something up, since the VA isn't spending that money on those veterans to get them down there, that if we could work something out, that would be helpful for all involved.
It would be a coordinated pay service from the veteran to the program. I mean, you're not talking a lot, but it's something.
Right.
But yeah, there are other ways, and I think, again, if we focus our attention on the impact that's having, one, to our community and our county, and then also what it could have as an impact to the other counties surrounding us, and start working with them. They all have veterans programs, not nearly as successful or energetic or enthusiastic, and a whole lot of other words, positive that we are doing here. But I'd like to share that with them and get them on board with this. So I really do applaud everything that's being done for our veterans.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approve Resolution 0-19.06 to transfer funding in the amount of $40,000 from our reserve for contingencies to the Veterans Transit Services budget.
I'll second that.
Oh, no. Just, I believe it's a correction. It was a clarification. Is that an O?
Is it O?
It's an O.
Oscar?
It's an O.
Okay.
It's
a capital O.
Letter O.
Okay, I apologize.
No problem.
OTEC 19.06.
It's a whole different thing.
You still good with that, Dick?
Yes.
He went from a 0 to an O, so.
We'll have to redo the vote.
Okay.
voted yet, so it's
Any
all
other
right.
questions,
As amended,
concerns?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. FY20 Annual Transportation Plan Pre-Approval and Public Hearing Notice.
And we're
Hello.
now adding, hello again. Wanted to say, you miss us yet? Also joining the table is Deb Sanford with the Management Budget Office, who also manages all of our grants. Commissioners are here today to get the pre-approval for the FY20 Annual Transportation Plan, or you'll hear us say ATP, and to go out for a public hearing notice. As just in brief, we have 157,000 passengers trips in FY18 that serviced both older adults, persons with disabilities, and the general public. We have 6 Trailblazer deviated fixed routes that carried over 7,000 passengers. In those routes were operated in Ellisburg, the new Hampstead-Manchester routes, Taneytown, South Carroll, and 2 Westminster routes. They average about 65 passengers a day on the Blue Trailblazer system that we have. Our demand response door-to-door service, it continues to increase, and we have, I'm trying to think of some numbers here. What other numbers am I missing? Well, they make up the other 150, the difference of the 146,000 trips that we have that happen on a yearly basis. As you'll see in our budget here, we have a match of $789,991.00 from the MTA and FTA as a reimbursement for our program. I'm going to pass this over to Stacy to provide a few more details about our program. Stacy and Debbie about our program and this this process with the ATP grant.
Well, I think you did a good job explaining the program. It is slowly increasing, not as much as we would like it to. We want more people to ride all the time, but it is increasing with the new routes, which is exciting. We are putting in our ATP for this upcoming grant system a request for 7 replacement vehicles this year. We requested 10 last year and we got 3. So we're hoping to get more than that this year. All 7 have over 200,000 miles and they're eligible to be replaced if MTA would give us the funding.
So should you request 21 so you can do 7 because it's 30% reimbursement? So
it's not a bad idea. In our application right now, we are also asking for an additional expansion route for Westminster. We had been talking about that at our TAC meetings, and if we add another blue bus to Westminster, it'll cut down wait times. It'll add additional stops that we aren't hitting currently, that we have some people that would like to be added to the stops, to the route. And it would also kind of adjust maybe the Taneytown route and the Hampstead route a little bit to make things easier for people to get around and add more residential in Westminster stops. That is only if we get that funding from MTA that we would pursue that. So if you want us to go forward with that, we'll put it in the grant application. But if MTA says no to the funding, we will not pursue it. We have to have a public hearing notice, so we're also here to get that approved. That'll go out in the paper on Monday. And if we have anyone that wants to have a public hearing, we'll come back. Did I miss anything?
I just want to make sure that it's clear that there is match required for that additional route. So we would need to match both the operating, and that would be ongoing expenses, and we would need to match the bus purchase. So those expenses are detailed in that third table on the second page.
So that's-
the ongoing operating costs would be around 21,000, and then the match for the first year for the bus is 6,600.
So those numbers aren't reflected in the,
Not in the first table, no.
okay.
Right, that is an option, and only if MTA, FTA has funding available in support to increase, to add that route.
Oh, the 7 buses that we're requesting, if we could possibly get 7. Is that just replacement buses, or are we getting some extra buses so we can try to do the system a little more efficiently?
The 7 are just replacement, so then we're gonna ask for that additional Westminster, so we would be 8 total buses if
Only
we
8?
got them all.
I mean, my feeling is, why not ask for more buses, because we do want to do more things with this system, and we can't do it without the additional buses. So if we don't ask for them, we're not going to get the additional buses.
Yeah, but there's probably, there's probably parameters surrounding the request for buses,
Well, you have to
right?
have show the need.
Right.
And I think we could show the need if we were to work the system a little differently, like we had talked about in the meeting with the spoken hub, or however you want to call it, system going back and forth. We could certainly show the need for additional buses, because if that would work, that would be much more efficient for the people using the bus system.
Probably. We could probably show the need for it, but I don't know how many more buses that would be. And with MTA's history of not sending extra
Right.
buses, we would need, I think we would need a whole bunch more buses to kind of redo the system. And I don't know that they would give us that.
Yeah, I don't-
Double the buses that we
MTA has
have.
notified us that they've been they have been flat funded for the last few years. In moving to the future, there's no additional funding that's available. And at this point, we're trying to concentrate on replacing our current aging fleet. While last year we were able to receive buses that dated back from our request from 2014 or FY14, we still have a system now that is out, has met the requirements for our lots manual to ask for buses, ask for replacements of buses with the excess of 200,000 miles on them. And we're still struggling to just get, as you heard,
Right.
we asked for 10 and received 3 last year.
Well,
We're falling behind at a quick rate here. That we're trying to make sure that we at least maintain and keep the focus on that at this point.
I mean, a quick look at your briefing paper from where I'm sitting. If you ask for 11 buses instead of 7, then you would have additional buses, if you got the 11, to do that system where you have the buses going around the Hampstead, Manchester area, that is dedicated bus to go back and forth to the hub over here at the Burke with 4. So I'm not saying get them, but if you don't ask for them, you're certainly not going to get them. So why not ask for 11 buses?
That's true. As Debbie just reminded me, though, we're still in the middle of our transportation development plan process. And since that system wasn't in our last 5-year plan, the state isn't going to fund it. But since we're in the middle of it, and they are looking into all of our changes to Trailblazer and demand response and all that stuff that we wanted them to look into. So maybe next grant system, we will have a new plan for what we want Trailblazer to be. We might have better luck getting that funding from MTA next year, because it'll be in the TDP.
Right.
And without it being in the TDP, they don't like to fund it.
Regarding the buses that want to be replaced, I mean, now we're talking about, the risk associated with keeping those buses in place and or getting them replaced. Is the cost of repair for those buses getting to a point of, just too difficult and they're not being repaired well enough to keep them running? I mean, I understand the high mileage, but if...
Not that they're not being repaired well enough.
Okay.
I mean, Fleet does a very good job with repairs. We
Okay.
did have one where the engine blew, and that is currently sitting to be sold.
Right.
But we are in the process of MTA with replacing that with one of the 3 that we are going to get. So we should get one of them back on the road. So there are a few, like that one, that it's just not worth putting the money in to save it.
Right.
But most of them we don't have that problem with, no.
Right. And speaking for fleet, every time even every bus that comes in for a simple oil change gets a full, and as any of our vehicles, is a full front to back safety inspection. It does not leave the shop if there's any safety concerns at all with any of our vehicles, whether it's a pull vehicle, your vehicle outside, to the buses. Yes, as we start getting up to the 250,000 mile mark with these buses, the expenses are going to increase. We do have a line item for repairs that also has a match attached to that. Luckily, with the newer fleet of the 16 we received, our expenses have reduced over the last couple of years. Yes, they will start increasing probably as these buses continue to age. This is nothing different from what the rest of the state is dealing with. Everybody in the state is behind on replacement of these vehicles with the flat funding. We're doing everything that we can to maintain it, but if it's not safe or there's major issues, they are immediately taken off the road.
Right.
We have to make adjustments at that point of how we're going to run the system.
But you're making the argument now that there's not the sense of urgency to have replacement buses. I mean,
Anytime you get a vehicle over 200,000 miles, I don't care what I don't care what color it is. You need a new vehicle. Period.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when something
you can
could
add all the
seriously
fruit
go
you
wrong.
want to it.
Right.
That's absurd.
well, I don't think it's
200,000 plus miles on a vehicle is ridiculous.
Right.
So that makes the case right there.
Right. And our buses, in a lot of our buses, luckily we rotate some of the fleet around so we can keep them averaged out the best that we can. If there's buses that were not needed for the day, we use the low mileage buses, so we're not putting the added strain onto them.
Well, and it's a different
Luckily, we
kind.
have great smooth roads from engineering.
Well,
and
that
roads.
and it's a different kind of mileage too.
Yes.
It's not, you can't look at it as a car or whatever,
Right.
a regular vehicle. These are hard miles.
Right.
And MTA knows that.
Yes.
Is there a
So-
standard? I apologize.
No, go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
Is there an actual standard that MTA says at this mileage mark, there should be a significant, risk to the vehicle, a serious, situation where they should be replaced or must be replaced?
MTA has a useful life,
Okay.
and it is 6 years, 200,000 miles
Okay.
for these vehicles.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
And we do include that in the grant application, all the repairs that have been made, any concerns that we have with that specific vehicle, we document through pictures and repair costs. And MTA funds most of our preventive maintenance, MTA, FTA, so they're funding these repairs, 80% of them. And they line up the buses that are requested throughout the state, and it's where we fall.
Excuse my ignorance on the subject, because it says elderly and disabled, which I don't think I'm either one. But what's the revenue coming in? Do we charge these people a fare to ride this bus, or is it a free service? I'm just totally ignorant on the subject.
Yes, there are fares. Our Trailblazer fares are $2 for the general public, and then older adults and disabled are $1 for each ride. Our demand response, door to door, is based on mileage, starts at $4 a ride, and then per every 5 miles goes up $1.
And how long have those rates been set at?
Crystal's
Would we
saying
put-
since 2017.
Say that again?
Since 2017.
Okay, because I was wondering if potentially we could go back and look at possibly raising the rates for travel since the expenses are going up with economic inflation.
Well, I have to say, the people have called me or mostly called us, to be honest with you, or emailed me about the bus service. If there's a complaint, it's that it's too expensive. They can't afford to do it. And you're talking about people that can get the senior discount books at the senior centers.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get more books because they don't have enough. And so if you're talking about raising the rates, because you're looking at the population that, number one, generally doesn't have the money to pay the extra additional anyway. I mean, most I guess all public transportation systems are subsidized, so we're subsidizing this. I don't see raising the rates is where we're looking because we want to increase the ridership.
I'm just curious as to how it works.
Yeah.
And the revenue is reflected in that budget on the first page, so the revenue's estimated at 680,000 for 19.
Is that
and
a
that's
target number, or it just,
based on last year's?
Yeah.
Or this year's revenue?
okay, thank you.
So, I'm always challenged by the timeline here because we're gonna attempt to approve the ATP prior to our budget process, which always, I mean, we talked about something else this morning. It always makes it challenging because based on this, you are anticipating about a $20,000 increase, is that right?
Yes.
I mean, give or take $1 or $2
For the
here.
existing service, yes.
So then we're gonna have to make sure that that you have provided that information to budget so that we can reflect that as well, but not knowing what we're gonna get.
And this is not the full approval. This will just move on so we can go out for, ask to see if anybody wants to come out for a public hearing.
Okay.
It also moves our process to the next step.
Okay.
The board still has final approval of this, of the
Okay.
ATP.
Okay.
A few months down the road when you're in the middle of your budget process. But
Okay.
this is something that has, that you will have listed in your documentation when you're looking at your budgets, that there was an increase, and it'll be reflected.
If I can ask Ted, do we flat fund this from year to year, or do we give a 3% or some percent increase? Are we, because my guess is we're anticipating this has to increase.
I don't specifically know the answer to that. I feel comfortable that we are building in increases. I don't know if it's 3%. I suspect we're building it on expectations of
Right,
what it's
okay.
actually going to do.
So we're sort of prepared for this.
And I hesitate to answer like I
Okay.
out of here.
I'm getting signals from Heidi in the back.
okay.
She is saying that there was a 5% increase budgeted for.
I thought I
Okay.
remembered that we
Yeah,
had built
she's
in an increase.
high-fiving me, so I'm assuming that means 5%.
Yes, I forgot how to
That was
do
great
Stop, I don't know.
And she is,
She was waving, I don't know what I.
Great communication there.
yeah, she's just waving to
Yeah.
me. It wasn't 5%. No, and Heidi's on the team that works on this and saw this briefing paper, so she blessed it before we came to you. And we just need an up to amount. We'll advertise an
Right.
up to amount, and then we can always dial it back at the final approval if you
Yeah,
want
that's
us
kind
to.
of the
We
direction
get
that.
stuck because we've got to go
I
now
know,
to
I know,
make all
that's
the
why it's such a
deadlines.
challenge here.
Yeah.
And in addition, you want to direct the staff to research the Westminster,
Yes.
The additional,
okay.
Right.
Okay.
but those numbers aren't reflected in the requests that they're making, that's the thing, right?
Right, there'll be an additional $27,000 on top of the additional 20.
Yeah, so I would
If we
need to
wanted to
see,
expand this route that was put in our TDP years ago, this is the last, close to the last piece of the pie of what we put in our last
right,
transportation development program years ago when we put our recipe together to make our cake.
yeah, okay.
Now this is the last bit of the ingredients we need to make the cake.
Okay, well, Dennis, you serve on TAC. I mean, do the statistics drive the request? Pun intended.
From what I can, when we put, like the Hampstead, Manchester, we opened that up, there was a tremendous increase up there of our whole system. If we look at this and we put this in there, yeah, I think when we expand the system, when we put more buses on the route, we get more people riding. And the way to get more people in to ride is to make it more convenient.
Right.
You can cut down the hour and 15-minute wait time between the bus hits that stop the second time. You get more people to ride it. If we could do this, the hub and spoke system, you get more people to ride it. We're trying to work there, and it takes a while because number one, you don't get the number of buses that you need when you really need them. So we have to wait, and it just backs everything up. So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
And this Westminster route, what we're looking at making a motion today is just to finalize the plan. We're not putting that route into motion. We don't have the buses for it, correct?
No, we would not put it in.
Right, so just finalize it, get everything ready, so if the buses ever come our way.
Right, we would put it
we're
in the
ready to
grant
go.
application,
Right,
and if
right.
if MTA doesn't fund it, we wouldn't move forward with it.
Right.
But if they do, we have to match it.
Correct.
Right.
So that's where I'm coming from, because then that's an additional.
26,000.
Yeah, but it's a
26,
good
yeah.
problem to have if we had those
Okay.
buses.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
So they're potentially looking for two separate.
Yes, two
programs.
motions.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
On the same page.
Yep, okay.
Well, I'll make the motion, the Board of Commissioners direct staff to develop the proposed expansion route in Westminster.
Second.
There's a reason for that.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was a little bit of a reluctant aye, but
Yeah.
I know we're gonna base it on whether or not they decide to finance it or not, but, okay. And then I need a second motion. You on a roll here, Commissioner
Sure. I'll make
Frazier?
the motion, the Board of Commissioners approves the projected budget for FY '20 annual transportation plan and advertise the public hearing.
I'll
Is there?
second.
Okay.
Wake up.
Questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 5-0 as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Good
you.
luck. Sharpen the pencils.
No problem.
Okay. Next item, possible approval for contract award and fund transfer and approval of another resolution, and this is for a grading project at the Farm Museum. And, I'm sorry, who are you again? Our Director of Economic Development, Mr. Jack Lyburn, and friends. I'll let you introduce, Jack.
Commissioner, thank you. I'm Jack Lyburn, Director of Economic Development for Carroll County, just in case you forgot. Joanne Morvay is here, the manager of the Farm Museum. The chairman of our board, of the advisory board, is Ralph Robertson, and we also have the chairman-elect, which is Jack Hope behind me. So we were here about a month ago, and we have a water problem, as you know, at the Farm Museum. We need to replace the pens, the animal pens, and the playground, but we couldn't do that till we solved the water problem. You asked us to go out the bid. We had an estimate from Carol Ann would be about $110,000. You asked us to go out. We worked with Mike. We had 3 contractors under term. The lowest one, the bid we'd like to would be the Stanball bid, and that would be for $82,904. And we're asking you to approve the award the contract, and then at that point transfer the money from the reserve fund so we can go ahead and start the process. We want to take down the pens now and move the wooden playground. We like to do it in the winter, so when the season starts in April, we can start. And Ralph, I don't know if you.
Yeah, I just want to give you some background about the Farm Museum and how important it is to the county. From July 2017 until June 2018, the Farm Museum generated $599,000 of income. It had 36,000 visitors. This past holiday tour, the amount of people that were able to enjoy the holiday festivities at the Farm Museum increased by 1,000. The annual events that is out there, we had 59 annual events, 48 traditional art classes, 41 school field trips, 30 tea settings, 28 weddings, and 6 youth camps. So there's a lot of activity out there, and there's some little things that you may or may not know, but the Long-Term Advisory Council that just issued a report for the county on the long-term aspects of the county and some of the expectations mentioned the ongoing need for destinations for citizens within the county and throughout the state to come to a destination, and Carroll County has that attraction. It's a farm museum. It's something that needs a lot of attention. As you well know, it's an old facility. The advisory council, the advisory board, did a 1.5-year study looking at every building, every aspect of the operation, and there are some certain things that you need to do before you can do something else. We all know that. One of the problems out at the Farm Museum is that we had drainage issues, and they were compounded probably 10 times with the weather we just had this year. And so we need to address some of these problems before we can move on and do better things out there. So that's the nexus of why we're here and why we're doing this. The other part of it is that timing here is everything. We need to start these projects and do them in the downtime so that when we start to ramp up for the new season to invite visitors in and have our events not be interrupted, we need to have some of these projects done. So we may be out of sync as far as maybe budgetary times, but sometimes you have to do things, as you well know, Dick. You're a farmer. You got to plant the seed when the ground's fit. And so we have to get this work done while we can so that we can move on and upgrade some of these things that needs to be done at the Farm Museum. So that's really the nexus of our consideration and our timing for being here today.
I saw the area you're talking about here, I think pulling the kids out of the mud in that area as they're trying to walk through there. It definitely needs to be upgraded.
Some kids like playing in the mud.
Not up to their waist.
I don't like the elderly that falls in the mud, though.
I got you.
No, it needs help. That whole area you have to do something here. If you're going to have 36,000 people through there and kids running all over the place in that area, they need to have an upgrade.
In November, he came to the board and it was $150,000 supported by the Board of Commissioners in November for relatively the same issue, or are we talking
It's
two
the same
separate-
issue, but we were asked by the board in November to put the bids out. And so that's what we did. So we put the bids out. We got three
bids.
Three
It's
bids.
County term contractors, and you can see from the prices it came in well under bid. I mean, at that point, we were thinking it was gonna be $110,000, but Stanbaugh's bid is $82,000. We feel very comfortable with that bid because it does include all the work, and they've also done previous stormwater work at the museum. Because it is an old facility and the staff has changed over time, it's like an old farm. There's always pipes that you can't see, that kind of thing. They're very familiar with that because they did the prior work, but they were also the low bidder, which I feel like is a bonus.
So November was the approval to go out
For bid.
for bid.
For bid.
That's it.
We had
no
an
money
estimate. We
allocated.
asked
Okay.
Carol Land to
Okay.
do a drawing, and they did a drawing. They said it would be about 110. And
Yeah.
the commissioners asked us to go out to bid, and we worked with Mike, and we ran this by Gail, and she agrees that, this is the best to use this contractor to do this.
Yeah, I know where you were going, Ed. You were thinking in addition to, but
Yeah,
it's not.
it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
This is less.
We would never do
Right. So, yep.
So we're asking approval for you to award the bid to Stanbaugh, but we're also asking to they give us the 82,904, out of the reserve fund now.
What's their timeline? Have they let us know what that's gonna be?
February to March, it's actually tied to a stormwater management project in Westminster, so that's why we want to start it in February, because the county is providing the fill dirt, so that was one of the reasons we could reduce the cost.
Yeah, okay.
It all fits in.
It's an important
perfect.
part that I wanted you to bring out. Thank you.
And, this has to come out of our contingency for reserve funds. But
Right.
at this point, with that many people coming through and the job you're doing, Joanne, you do a great job out there managing that facility. I'll move the Board of Commissioners concur with the award of the Farm Museum grading project contract to Stanbaugh's Incorporated for $82,904, and the funding for this project be transferred from the county's contingency reserve.
Second.
Okay, just a procedural question, if you will. We don't need to state the resolution or like we did on the last one. There's nothing attached to that. We don't need, there's nothing attached to this one, is what I'm,
Well, it says it takes it says take the project, transfer the money.
I understand
It's in
that.
that
On the
resolution.
last transfer, we actually had a,
Oh, the number, yeah.
yeah,
right,
I just want to make sure that we're not doing anything
Right.
that's, you know,
I wouldn't know it was a 0 and O though.
yeah, so
I
it's,
wasn't sure.
It's a no.
who made the, did you do that? Just add that resolution number so we're covered. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Legally.
Okay, 82,904, and that the funding for this project transfer from the county's contingency reserve, resolution number 0-19.05.
Still low, but that's
Still O.
No.
Not zero, O.
We just went through this a minute
It's a
ago.
0.
It's an O.
An O is.
An account
You know,
like
like
on
baseball
on
teams,
on
O.
the alphabet. 0 is.
All right,
I can't second that then. Second.
all right. I got a motion and second. All those in favor quickly? Aye. 5-0. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work out there, too.
0 or.
No, that was, O.
Oh, thank it's over. That's a good point, Commissioner, about that.
Okay.
number. That was good.
Next on the agenda, transfer of the Delaney property to the IDA. And again, we're joined by the incomparable Mr. Jack Liburd. See, I made up
Before
for the
we
last
go to that, I know you all know this, but for the public record, that Ralph Robinson and Jack, they're volunteers. We do not pay them. But we have a potluck picnic in the summer, and they all bring food. So that's about as far as we go. So I just want the volunteers on the board and the 280 some volunteers we have when we do our events. I just want you to know, you know, how much we appreciate all the volunteers, especially with Ralph and Jack.
Okay.
No, thanks.
The Delaney property. Linda's here to support me. Behind me, our director of planning here. You purchased the property in 1996, is known as the Delaney property, and at that point you were purchasing it for a future school site. Over the years, when you did the Freedom Plan, you said you wouldn't be a school site; it would be adopted as a future employment campus. And when I mean an employment campus, we wouldn't have any metal buildings, we wouldn't have warehousing, we would cover the land about 25% of buildings. It would be, Liberty Exchange has the one-story R&D buildings. It would be what you see out in Harrod County and all over there. So that's a campus zone. We're not covering, we're not covering, we're gonna have a lot of covenants in there. The site's approximately 120 acres. And we asked Caroline to just do a quick and dirty analysis, and we think there's about 60 or 65 usable acres. And that, you take up roads, stormwater management, and then we want a lot of green space and a lot of shielding, from our other neighbors. From the approval of the Water and Sewer Master Plan, it should be ready in a priority funding area in about 6 months. And then, as you know, right now, we're bringing on another site, 2 other sites. We're bringing on a site in Hampstead, North Carroll Business Park, and that behind Fuchs there. We're working, one of our major priorities is working with Commissioner Boucher, is going to be on the Mount Airy Business Park, which is about 129 acres down there. And we have Warfield, which is a different kind of product. It has pad sites, and it has older buildings, which we're looking at cyber and looking at some of the back office. The one thing we don't have, and it's in the county, and this will be the only site the IDA has developed is in the county, because most of them are in the towns, that we do have water and sewer capacity here, that it wouldn't be a problem like we have in other areas. So we're asking you to transfer, I guess Tim and Isaac start the transfer process to the IDA of the 120 plus or minus called Delaney property. So we'd like to market this property in the fall of this year. We need land down off of 26 and in this area. I know we talked about the Delaney property before. It's behind the school, behind the high school. We have had interest in it already. Some people, we've been talking about this for about a year, and we have interest that some users want to purchase the property, but we really we need to start the process to see what it's going to cost to finish the property for us. But the IDA is ready and willing, and you have a letter from Sue Chambers, our chairman of our board, asking you to transfer the property here. So I guess what I'm asking for is to transfer the property, let our attorney and the IDA attorney, Isaac Minaj, start that process. And you've done this before with the hospital property, with the Air Business Park. It wouldn't be the first one you've transferred to the IDA to develop.
I am a very strong advocate of economic development. I'd like to refer to Commissioner Rothstein. This is his district. I'd like to see him jump on top of this and make the motion and move it forward.
Well, absolutely, I will be. And just beforehand, really appreciate the work you're doing in identifying this property. The briefing that we had recently on water and sewer, and how this is in that plan as well. So the work that we are doing, or you are doing, and the staff together, making this property marketable, and a good opportunity for business and, like Commissioner Boucher, economic developing growth, as I share where it makes sense. And that's exactly what this is telling me. So, kudos to you, your team, and the entire staff working together. So,
well, it takes the whole village to do something like this. But
it does.
With us being the #1 county, we've been told through Commerce doing manufacturing, we keep getting more and more manufacturing. And Commissioner, you're smiling here, but it seems like every couple of months we've been opening up ribbon cuttings with new manufacturers. We're going to keep in this pace. We need to stay ahead of the curve, and it takes about a year to get this site ready to go. So we just can't turn the switch and get it ready. So we're asking for it now.
No,
but thank you for your kind words.
I'm smiling because when you make the sell, stop selling. You make the sell.
So
Deal.
You're gonna
make
Sure,
that
I'll make
motion?
a motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the transfer of the Delaney property to the IDA for development as an employment campus.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and second. Just one comment. I know it says 60 usable out of 120. Have we really dug into that to see if we can maybe scoot a few more out of that? That would be.
I can tell you we will get more out of that, but this was
Okay.
just a preliminary
Okay.
plan, and when I want to give you the lower number,
Okay.
it's 50% is a lot to lose on a site. So, we haven't really hired Carol Ann to really do the
Okay.
engineering study. But yes, we're going to maximize the site, but we want to be careful too. It's a campus zone, so we don't want to cover it with a lot of buildings. We want a lot of green space.
Right.
But believe me, we'll get as much as we can.
Okay.
And you have to screen the school next to it. The other areas there, you have to have some screening in too.
Yeah, well, the screening and the berming and everything, yes, we have to have that done, but that won't take up a lot of land, but we'll get as much land as we can, believe me.
Okay. All right, anything else? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you for both.
Yep.
And thank you for all your support and for economic development.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you're here today because I thought you'd be out making deals or something.
How do you spell IDA? No, I'm kidding.
Next week. Next week.
Thanks, Jack. All right, we're going to continue our agency presentations. We've got 2 this afternoon. First out of the gate, and we're actually ahead of schedule.
Keep it rolling.
The ARC of Carroll County, and we are blessed to have their executive director, Mr. Don Rao, with us. Don, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Rao, nice to meet you, sir. All right.
Well, Commissioners, it's always a pleasure to come and talk with you and update you what's going on at the ARC Carroll County. So the first slide that I wanted to provide, or the bit of information, is just some by the numbers, what we've been involved with. So we are serving just over 700 adults and children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have 320 staff that help us do that every day. We operate 8 homes here in Carroll County. Our operating budget's just a little over the $12 million. And something that I'm especially proud of, and it's really a commitment that our staff have made, is our overhead is 8%. So, what that means is, for us, is that a lot of our direct support staff and a lot of our administrative staff are, really doing a lot each day to make that happen, to make sure that every dollar that we can possibly put into direct service is going into direct service. Our staff wages and associated costs are just about 75% of our budget. And the other thing that I'll share with you too, roughly 70% of our staff make less than $13 an hour. So that is significant in the climate that we're in. When I was just at Annapolis this morning, and hearing the talk about the minimum wage going to perhaps $15 over time. So that's something that I would love our staff to make that, and I hope they do. But that does have some implications when we get a significant portion of our funding from the state of Maryland. They're going to have to be prepared to be able to fund us so that we can continue to operate those services. But that's something, to be honest, I'm a little worried about when it comes to this session. And then you can see that we are fortunate in that we do have some diversity within our funding streams, and that's something that we've worked very hard over the years so that all of our eggs are not in one basket. We updated our strategic plan this year, and it really is I think a great plan for us moving forward for the next 2 years. We are in the midst of probably the most significant systems change in our industry in all the years that I've been in this industry, which is a little over 31 years. And this movement of having people out in the community and more connected with their community is really a great philosophy, and we want to participate in that effort. But it's also a challenge in several ways as well. So what our strategic plan really addressed this time is in the first box, it acknowledges that we are going through a significant change within our industry. The one that is to the immediate right really addresses our culture. We want to assure that our culture does not change as we may have to, change the way we're funded and the way that we provide services. But we wanted something to make sure that that organizationally we could continue to support our belief that every individual needs to be able to drive their decisions in terms of their life. In the bottom left, we have to address the funding needs, and this idea that, and really it hasn't been too terribly many years ago that we had to shift a bit and look at what are some other ways that we could create revenue, because as we looked at our mission and what we wanted to do with services, and expecting the state or the county or somebody else to pay 100% of that, today that's just not realistic. So we wanted a robust development plan to help us with that. And then the final box to the right is, the staff and the workforce that we need to carry this out and to make sure that they are actively engaged and compensated and trained to carry out what we're asking them to do every day. one of the things I wanted to share with you too is one of the programs at the ARC that we really feel is a best practice, and that's our educational partnership program. And that's something that began, 16 years ago. It was a partnership with Carroll County Public Schools and the Division of Rehabilitation Services. And at the time, we were just going into one high school at that time, talking with students that were getting ready to transition out of high school and talking to them about their future and jobs and things like that. And today, we work in all 5 high schools and the post-secondary program that exists here in Carroll County. And last year, we added a 3rd location to our the school's post-secondary program. We launched a couple years ago with Carroll Hospital, and then went to Carroll Community College, and now we're at McDaniel College as well. And that's something that the school system, has developed, and really is not only a best practice here in this community or even in this state, but really nationally, it's recognized as a best practice in what we're doing here in Carroll County. And so I want to let you know that the things that are happening here and the partnerships that are happening here are not only being noticed and recognized within this area, but really around the state and also around the country. In fact, we had a chance this past summer to present this program at our ARC-US Summer Leadership Institute, where I was fortunate to go with one of the Carroll County Public School folks that runs this program, the coordinator, Mary Pat Dye, and I presented. And it's amazing what other communities and other states are doing, and asking us, gosh, how do you do what you do? Our work-based learning program is really a key portion of this. Last year, we helped 30 students get employed, summer jobs, and that's moved to a year-round. And again, that's something that around the state, Carroll County has really taken a leadership role. To give you some idea, we committed this community to 100 students getting summer jobs, and I think we're just around that number. In other counties, it was maybe half that, or a number significantly less than that. So that just again shows the commitment that people have and organizations have to finding ways to get students employed. Some of the other efforts that we're involved in are programs where students that are identified as special needs can learn different skills while they're still in school, helping them to prepare for that transition. And I've just listed a couple of programs there that the ARC supports and that have become pretty popular. The other thing I'd like to share with you is our kind of our newest addition at our facility is our technology center. I know many of you have come over to the ARC and toured around, and there was always that one room that I think I asked people to, you would need to use your imagination for, because we didn't have anything in it yet except chairs. And so this last year, we were able to receive a grant from Comcast and partnered with the ARC-US at outfitting a technology center for the use by our folks. And really what we're trying to do there is teach our folks the best ways to use technology and also the safe ways to using technology. There's a lot of things, as we all know, out there on the internet, and our folks need a little bit of instruction on how to safely navigate. The other thing that came about that we didn't intend at first, but has been a nice addition is a coding class. We've conducted some entry-level coding classes for some folks. We've had, 10, 12 folks that have gone through that. And it's amazing what people are able to do. And we've got an instructor that's really engaged and is helping folks, learn more about how to, maybe have careers or employment around technology. We have a launch party. It's rescheduled. The last time we had it, we thought we were safe by having it in November, and that is the exact same day that it snowed here in the county, and canceled our technology party, so we have it rescheduled for next Thursday, the 24th. From 10 to 1. We'll have some demonstrations that day from folks that are coding and being able to share with you and others the things that they're learning in this space. Just wanted to quickly share 2 stories, success stories. These are folks that receive services at the ARC and just talk about the impact that our services have. So our first one is Dorian, and Dorian came through that program that I talked about through the school system. And when he came to us, we were pretty actively engaged with him in an employment pursuit, and he got his very first job at a local gym wiping off the equipment. And it was something that, you know, he was willing to try, and he was happy that somebody wanted to employ him, and he absolutely hated that job. He did not like wiping off sweaty gym equipment.
We all can relate to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know. So he stuck with it for a little while, but he made it known that he did not love this. And so we helped him get another job. Again, he didn't love that so much. So he came back to the ARC, and we were really trying to figure out what would be a fit for this young man. And an opportunity came up when we launched the program over at McDaniel College to work in the theater program, making and painting sets. And there was a gentleman over there that ran that program that really took a liking to Dorian, and they really bonded. And come to find out, that is Dorian's passion, is working with hand tools and making things and carpentry. And it was just so amazing to see him thrive in that environment.
I like to hear that.
Yeah.
Really good. So many people get a sense of satisfaction from making something tangible.
And he's good at it. I mean, and it was apparent that he loved it because of the things that he was making. And so that ended, and we weren't quite sure what was next for him because, you know,
County Commissioner?
Yeah. Well, and then actually what happened is one of our staff heard about a local business, Autumn Ridge, which does some carpentry work, and they hired him in the fall for their Christmas and holiday rush, and he did really well. And so after that was done, you know, they said, okay, we'll keep your name, and when we have, you know, some more work, we'll call you back in. And I'm thrilled to say last week they said, hey, you know, we've got some more work, and we really missed you and missed having you here, and so we want you back. And so he started back at Autumn Ridge. So, you know, that was something that we were just thrilled about. The other woman, Christine. Christine, when I first came to the ARC 27 years ago, she was living in our residential home with 2 other people. And, you know, Christine, you know, likes things a certain way, and she likes predictability, and she likes schedules, and when things don't go that way, you know, she gets a little upset with that. So she had an opportunity about 1.5 years ago through some situations where she had some time in this home by herself and a staff person, and she communicated to us that she liked that. And so we started talking to her a little bit more about the idea of moving out on her own, and boy, she was pretty fearful. You know, she'd lived a long time with other people, and she wasn't quite sure that that was a step she wanted to take. And so we kept at it, and she looked around at some apartments, and none really quite fit. And then she found one that she absolutely loved. And she took about a day too long to make her decision, and it was rented by somebody else. And so we thought, oh my gosh, you know, now what? And she was upset about that too. So we thought we were back to square one. But she was able to find another place that I think really met her needs better, and she was comfortable with it. And so she moved in, and we kept waiting for the explosion. We kept waiting for something to happen because, you know, for 30 years she's lived life a certain way. And it just never came. In fact, I think she did better with this move than some of us. And so she's living on her own. The funding source that she moved into does not permit overnight supervision, which she had before. And so that was another huge transition for her, is to wean off in a course of a month, going from somebody and knowing that somebody's there in case there's a problem at night. But in a month's time, she went from having somebody there 7 nights a week to 0 nights a week. And again, we waited for the explosion, but it never came. So I just, when I look at this and I look at her and what she's been able to accomplish, it's really amazing, and she is doing quite well. You know, the ARC is fortunate that we've got a great group of volunteers for our board. They are supportive, they're thoughtful, they're knowledgeable, they understand the commitment that we've made as an organization to the people that have chosen us for their service, and they also understand the you know, the changes that we're having to face and the impact that is going to have or may have on the organization. And so I'm just really, I feel very fortunate that we've got a great group of folks that help me to make decisions and to help me to you know, work through changes that we might have to make. The other thing that we're really fortunate is to have a tremendous group of and tremendous network of partnerships and relationships. And if I were to go to list, and I probably should do that sometime so that you can see it, it's just listing all the organizations and businesses that help us and support us. I want to thank county government for your support. We interact with several different organizations and offices within county government. Carroll County Public Schools is also a big partner. And also, too, the other organizations here in Carroll County, Change, Target, and Flying Colors. We get together, we talk about best practices, we talk about things that we could do better, and we just talk about how our services are impacting others. And it's also a supportive group as well. And then, you know, the Chamber of Commerce has also been a great support. We work with over 80 local businesses that employ people every day. And then we also are accredited by some organizations for our services and also for our governance. And we feel that that's important. We don't have to do that, but we feel that that's important because it's good to have fresh eyes coming into the organization to tell you, you know, here's some things that you can improve on, and here's some things that maybe you could do better, but then also affirming the things that we are doing well. To hear that from someone else, we found that to be valuable. And so I want to leave you today with our mission at the ARC, because I believe it's a result of our staff and the people in this community and the people that have chosen us for their support that really breathe life into our mission and help us to accomplish the things that we do each day. So that's a little bit about the ARC, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Don?
Do a great job.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Don,
good.
thank you very much. Good luck with your rescheduled launch.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna have snow on the 24th.
Oh, is that right? I think after 2 times we may just, that'll be that.
Okay, thanks. And the last agency that we're hearing from today is the Youth Service Bureau. And we have their executive director, Ms. Lynn Davis, with us. Lynn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I have special packets for our new commissioners so they can.
Wait, what?
Thank you.
Wait, what? They get, what?
You're not as special as Ed and
I feel deprived.
I'm a little bit, yeah.
I. Ed and I are more youthful.
Yeah, okay.
Keep that thought.
Thank you all so much for entertaining the agencies. It's our pleasure to be able to come and present to you. So I'm just going to start right out with our mission, and just giving you a few notes about. So I would be remiss if I didn't welcome our new commissioners, Rothstein and Boucher, to Carroll County leadership. I'm very pleased that you're part of this team now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and good afternoon to our other wonderful commissioners here today. So just to tell you a little bit about our agency, we've been around for a very long time, since 1972. We started out in our mission of providing mental health services really to kids and families, and then through the years kind of morphed into what we thought we really needed to do was to serve all people of all ages. And we also added substance use to our continuum of services about 7 years ago. So right now, and overall of our agency and the services we provide mental health treatment and substance use services to folks. And we currently see, well, we provided over 16,000 sessions last year. Most of my data is going to be from last year. And we serve over 2,600 clients right now. So we provide counseling services, we provide groups therapy, individual therapy, family therapy. Also our psychiatric services to 379 individuals, which means our doctors see people for assessments, complete evaluations, and also checkups every six to 8 weeks. So. And we have so many different programs that we're just thrilled, because when a need comes up in the county, it's kind of exciting to take on the challenge and try to fill the need within that county. And that's really how we have gained all these different programs over the years. So our partnerships are with Department of Social Services, Department of Juvenile Services, with Carroll County Health Department, certainly Citizen Services, Carroll County Public Schools, Silver Oak Academy, Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, Human Services Program, and Burke. And that's the last time I'm using all those words. Next it will be acronyms. So, but and then somatic care is something that we would really like to add to our continuum of services, to be able to have a primary care doctor on the premises of Youth Service Bureau. And that's really the direction that behavioral health is going. Currently, we have a nurse who can connect with primary care doctors if we have kids who we're not sure if they've been seen for their medical health. We want to make sure that that is we're treating the whole child. And you know, and I have to say, it's tough sometimes, because doctors are with patients and it's not always easy to get in touch with them, but we do try to provide that that service. So our mental health and substance use services for FY 2018, the number of cases we have is over 1,000, but as I said, we're serving about 2,600 people. 14 years and older with co-occurring services, that means that 70% of the people that we're seeing have both mental health issues and substance use issues. And we're not different than any other behavioral health provider. Those are the percentages. Typically, when you see a substance use, there's gonna be underlying mental health issues. And often, when you have mental health issues, there may be some kind of substance use. For example, if somebody has a serious depression, they may self-medicate with alcohol or other drugs. So, so those are pretty staggering statistics, I think. We have 6 programs with Carroll County Public Schools, and I'm going to highlight a few of them. One is a suicide injury program. And all the kids who come to us with this have talked about suicide, written about suicide, drawn about suicide while they're within the school setting. The school immediately calls us, and we see the child that day. So, so not only is it quick access to services, but it also keeps kids and families from waiting in emergency rooms when they don't really have to do that. So this year, we served 91 kids. We did 21 full assessments. The assessments last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, and then we decide whether to send the child on to the emergency room or not. But we've done 70 consultations, and that's with the therapist calling the referral source, talking with them, finding out more about the child and what's going on, and then making a plan with that child. Another service we have with Carroll County Public Schools, I'm sure you all saw in the papers last year a lot about teachers saying that they are having a lot of difficulty with elementary age kids and trying to accommodate their behaviors and a lot of their concerns inside the classroom. So the school system asked if we would be willing to see these kids or to provide consultation to the teachers. So that's a brand new program this year. We have no stats for that, but we're already seeing lots of numbers from the teachers. And these kids, first of all, have to be elementary, but they don't rise to the level of talking about suicide. So, but these are continual kinds of issues that are with this child that the teacher just can't seem to accommodate within his or her classroom.
So are you seeing the students, or are you talking to the teachers, or are you doing both?
Both. Well, and if we see the student, we're going to see the parents as well. Do assessment with the whole family. With Gateway School, we've been there probably 8 or 9 years, and we provide substance use counseling to those kids right within the school setting. So one of our therapists is there 4 days a week, however many hours a day. It's about 15 hours a week, and doing assessments with kids. They're doing counseling with kids, and they're running groups. And this is primarily around the issue of kids who have presented with substance use issues. So. They're performing the SASE. It's a substance abuse subtle screening inventory for substance use. So, you know, one might say, well, if somebody's giving you all the information, are you sure that they're being honest about things? But this inventory has the ability, through the different questioning that they ask, is to come within like a 93 or 94% accuracy rate of finding people who have substance use issues, and it's used with adults and adolescents. If we find that those kids have a high probability of substance use, then we're going to refer them to further treatment. And the one that I just think is so amazing that Carroll County Public Schools set this program up. This began in 1999, so we're talking 20 years ago. Carroll County Public Schools came to us and said, we want this service in our schools. This was April 1999. It was before Columbine. Oh, it was January 1999. It was before Columbine happened. So pretty forward thinking of the school system to do something like that. So it's a very long interview. It's a very long assessment that they do, and then the assessor writes up all the information, all the recommendations that they are giving to the school system, sends it to the parents, to the principal, and anyone else who was part of the referral source. So, and as you can see, the higher numbers are falling in the minimal mild, the mild moderate, but honestly, and I've said this, I think, to the commissioners before, we see this as an incredible opportunity to meet with families who would never walk in our door. So we use that opportunity to engage them the best we can and to get them hooked up with services if further services are warranted. We've had a couple kids in the severe frequency, and typically what's happened within the school system is they have already plan to move this child to an alternative school, and we come up with mental health recommendations, like what this kid needs, be it a psychiatric evaluation, counseling services. Okay, so we go to our community-based services outside of the school system, and the Department of Social Services, we've probably had this for 20 years too, but we work with kids who are at imminent risk of being removed from their homes. So this is like the last piece of the puzzle here, and these kids will be removed from the home. We have an incredible success rate with this. It's over 90%, about a 93% of keeping kids in their homes. And you can see with all the domains that we look for change in their environment, in other words, in the home situation, in family interaction, who's the parent in this home. And often you find that the kid is running the ship. So a lot of it is communication skills and how to make some changes in that. Child well-being, family safety, and child well-being is listed there twice. It must be very important. So these are the domains that we look for improvement in family preservation. So, and it's a therapist and a case manager who goes into the home. The therapist provides therapy, and the case manager is hooking this family up with all kinds of resources that are going to help them be more stable. And our Connecting Youth program, we're about 1.5 years into this. These statistics are for 18 to where we are now. So we're only halfway through this year. These kids come to us who are homeless, who have significant mental health and substance use. The youth that we see come into this program are not ready for work and are not ready to go to school. So we have to work with them to reduce all these barriers, get them in services so that they will be ready to go to school, go to training, or go to work. Last year we had, I think it was about 28 kids came in our door who were homeless. And by the end of the year with them, but probably before that, all of those kids had stable housing, some kind of stable housing, because we all know that you can't be employed if you don't have a house to go home to and a shower to get ready for work the next day. So, the last of our 2 evidence-based services, and I do want to say just 2 sentences about evidence-based services, is that these services are started in a university setting. So they are research-based services. They are proven effective. We have 4 of them in our agency right now, and we've worked hard to get them there. We've gotten outside sources of funding for training. I mean, these are year-long trainings. These are certification. They have to send videos of their therapy sessions to be validated. These are tough therapies for people to be in, and I can tell you that just about every therapist in our agency is in one of these evidence-based services. So they're expensive, and they're time-consuming, and we think they're worth every penny and every minute that we spend with them. So we've just seen such significant gains with our evidence-based services. So one works with older kids and their families, and then parent-child interaction is for the very young child who, at 3 years old, is getting let go of daycare. So, and then the 4th one, our latest one, is dialectical behavior therapy. These are folks who have significant trauma, and because of that trauma, they have developed borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic suicide calls. So they're really, it's teaching them specific skills that they can use in this life to have, as they call it, creating a life worth living, because some of these folks have a life that is so tragic that it's tough to go on for them day by day. And then our fourth one, and I know our other commissioners have heard of this a few times, and this is assertive community treatment. And this works with, again, it's a community and home-based service that works with people with schizophrenia, with very debilitating depression. These folks aren't able to keep weekly appointments, so we go to them, we help them with their food shopping, we pick up their furniture from the curb and try and find them a new house when they get evicted. I mean, every kind of service you can imagine. And the folks who serve on this team have literally hearts of gold. They do their laundry for them. They, you know, all kinds of things. They go above and beyond. So our totals for this, when we started July 1, we had 71 people. We now have 90. We are reaching towards 100. That's the maximum we can serve. One of our primary goals is to stabilize these folks, but the other primary goal is to keep them out of hospital settings. So let's see, so only 25 of our 90 people have had ER visits while they're in our care. It may seem like a lot to you, but these are pretty significantly troubled folks. And then 20% have had hospital stays. Our ACT team goes as far as we have a relationship with the hospital where they'll call us if they show up on their doorstep, and we will go and pick them up. This team will go and pick them up and try to stabilize them, which they're most often able to do. So, and just a bit about our internship program. If you have any young people who you want to refer to this in their second year of graduate school, this is something we've been doing. I will say that I was an intern with Carroll County Youth Service Bureau a million years ago, and I stayed. I loved it. So, and as do a lot of our internships. And a great part of it for the county is that we are able to serve so many more people, residents of our county, through this program. But why I like it so much is that it is the best interview we could ever give anyone. We get to watch them for 8 months, and we see their clinical skills, and we see their relationship skills, and what kind of a team player they are, what kind of work ethic they have. And at the end of 8 months, we have kind of our pick of people who would like to come and work there. So I just highlighted our substance use services. The county's been so incredibly generous to us to expand these services. And we have, as you can see, an integrated intake assessment now. We have 2 people everyone who comes in our agency goes through these 2 people who are highly skilled in interviewing and assessing people what kind of services they need. We work with folks with substance use and individual and family therapy. We have now 6 groups that are running that include substance use services. 2 of them are all substance use. A high-risk adolescent group has a focus on substance use, and our men's group is a substance use primary, but they all work with folks who are substance users or dependent. And then the Gateway School, of course, I mentioned, is focused on substance use. We do all the drug and alcohol screenings for Carroll County Public Schools, probably about 80 to 90 of them last year. We do urinalysis for our clients, not just our mandated clients, but those others who feels that there is a need to do that. And then we've picked up a couple parent education classes that we do, and a lot of this we do from getting small grants from churches and to pay for these services, especially the psychoeducation, the parent workshops. And we've had, over the last 2 years, probably 30 parents in each of those classes that we've taught. So a really high need. So, and it's so encouraging to see parents coming and learning and being schooled in signs to look for and what to do and how to approach your child if you think that they are using a substance. So kind of the right ways to do it so that you might get some responses from those adolescents. And usually, you ask us to come with some kind of a challenge. This is not a challenge that is, we're not asking for monies for it, but I feel like we've been seeing it for a couple years, and just to bring it up to the attention of the commissioners, and I know that you probably know this, but I'm just going to say how it affects our work. These are the folks that are called ALICE people, very familiar, the asset limited folks who are working, and certainly their lives are affected by the fact that they might be able to pay their rent, but then they have to decide on food or medicine, or and 33% in the state of Maryland are ALICE people, and 22%, which I thought was very high for Carroll County, 22% of our households fall under this, just above the poverty line, with a real challenge in affording things that they need. So just wanted to say that, and we can tell you that we've been seeing it for a couple years with the very high deductibles and the high copays that people have. So so we work pretty hard on trying to find monies out, scholarship funds or small grants or whatever, that help us help these folks. So we're not going to turn anybody away, but we still have to be a business and pay paychecks, so we try and find monies to subsidize some of those really high copays, as high as $6,000 sometimes. So anyway, so I thank you so much for listening, and happy to entertain any questions.
Just again, applaud the work you're doing. And
Thank
your team.
you.
It's phenomenal. Again, taking care of the community. Do you have any partnerships with Kennedy Krieger?
With
Kennedy Krieger Institute? Johns Hopkins, Kennedy Krieger?
No, we don't. We're doing some of the work now that Kennedy Krieger was doing with our families. I didn't mention all our services, but we're part of an eSmart program, which you may have heard about. We have the psychologist on site who does the assessments for the kids. So because it was taking so long to get into Kennedy Krieger, so we've taken a little bit of that off of them, but no, we don't. Yeah.
That is probably the biggest challenge with Kennedy Krieger, is that wait time. I mean, it's very, very challenging.
It shows they do good work, though.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
They do great work. You're supplementing a lot of the work they do. And they pull in a lot of psychologist interns as well, as you I'm sure are aware. Just on a side note, we'll follow up. I have strong relationships with folks over at Kennedy Krieger.
Okay.
And the head of behavioral health. Just kind of share some ideas and see there may be something there.
That sounds wonderful. We enjoy our partnerships, I have to say. So.
Lynn,
Thank
thank you.
you.
I've seen the results with some young adults and families, what you've done, and you've turned things around for them, and it's greatly appreciated what you do.
Well, thank you. That's why we come to work every day. So, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, next on the list, application for the Senior Inclusion Program Annual License Renewal. There's really no acronym there, is
Good
there?
afternoon, huh?
Zip.
Sick, hick, sip, sip.
Commissioners, I just wanted to take a minute to update you on a programming change at the Bureau of Housing while I'm here, and to notify the public that the Bureau of Housing is now offering evening hours. We are going to be offering evening hours 1 week a month, and we just started this week. So the 10th through the 16th, we're there, and then next month it'll be February 7th through the 13th, and so on. So we'll post the hours on our website. But we found that a number of the individuals we work with and families, they're working during the day, they have a hard time getting to the office, or they're missing appointments. So we're going to try some evening hours to see if that helps. And beginning in March, I believe, we're starting to come into the senior centers. Correct, right. So our housing specialists will make appointments and spend some time in the senior centers for those seniors who can't get to the Bureau of Housing. So I just wanted to say
Okay,
again.
thank you. All right.
We have a couple of grant renewals for our senior inclusion program. Joining me today is Celine Steckel, our Bureau Chief for Bureau of Aging and Disabilities, and Rich Atone, our Program Manager for the program, and I'm going to let them take it from here.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
We are seeking approval today for several things, as Christine said. The first one is the application for our license renewal for the Senior Inclusion Program. This is an annual license renewal that we are required to do. We have a license to serve up to 26 individuals in our Senior Inclusion Program, which is housed, as we spoke to you a few weeks ago, in the Westminster Senior and Community Center. It's a day habilitation program for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This program is kind of one of a kind because it really focuses in a retirement community for individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. We've received funding through this licensure since 1987 for the Senior Inclusion Program. We also, with this application and renewal, the application is due later this month, but it would be for the period of time of April 2019 through April of 2020. The day habilitation program funding that we received for fiscal year 18 was in the amount of $419,855. There is another portion to this licensure, which is for one individual who doesn't qualify for the day hab funding, and that individual receives excuse me, funding through our ISS grant, which is the Individual Support Services Grant through the Developmental Disabilities Administration, and that amount in fiscal year 18 was for $11,097, totaling the total fees that we received in reimbursement for our services, $430,952. There is no required county match for this program, and we utilize and are able to provide our services with those dollars. So we're requesting approval to submit our application again to continue our services in our senior inclusion program.
It says in here you serve up to 26 older adults. Is there people waiting to get on the program, or is that?
We do have a current waiting list of about, is it 4 individuals currently?
Are you capped at 26 because that's all you can handle, or is that because all you can get the state funding for, or what?
We have set that as we've had that as our goal for years, to serve that amount of individuals in the program, but we may be coming back to you later in this year because we can request an additional number of individuals to be served through this licensure at any time during the year if we make additional application. And we are currently looking at restructuring our program that we may be able to increase that number by potentially 5. One of the things that we did a few weeks ago with you folks was that you approved us for an additional 18-hour per week position, which we are interviewing for currently. Once we hire that person on board and look at how that mix is going to work, we are in the process of looking at expansion and taking more of our services out into the community, including offering more trips into programs at other senior and community centers as well. Not licensing additional senior and community centers for an identical senior inclusion program, but offering transportation and support services inside those other senior and community centers.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion the Board of Commissioners approve the Senior Inclusion Program application renewal for April 2nd, 2019 to April 1st, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. One down.
One down.
Medical assistance provider.
Can I go into the next one, actually, the Individual Support Services Grant
Yes.
renewal? I believe
I'm sorry,
that
I
one.
skipped ahead.
That's okay, because I just spoke to this a little bit
Okay,
in my
yep.
presentation.
Yep.
But we are also seeking, because this is a separate application, to submit application for renewal of our Individual Support Services Grant. As I said, this grant supports one individual who doesn't qualify for the typical day habilitation funding stream through the Developmental Disabilities Administration. And so each year they give us a COLA on top of the past year's award. So this year the award will be $11,485 with 0 required county match for a total of $11,485. And we are seeking for approval to submit that application.
What happens if this individual, if we don't get the grant for this individual? They just get kind of mainstreamed into the other, or what? How do we?
One who's attached to him, right?
Well, so he does have funding that is coming in, and actually they've already been providing funding for this individual without them providing us with the application for the award. They
Okay.
just recently provided that application. If you look, the grant period actually began July 1st, 2018, and it runs, so that's already almost half past.
Right, right, okay.
And we have billed for the services, and they have provided us with the funding. It's just
Okay.
that they were a little bit late in getting the announcement and application out.
Okay. Very good.
And to answer your other question, we would continue to provide services and just look to accommodate that with some of the program funding until we could find another source.
Okay. All right. I'll make the motion to approve the FY 2019 SIP Developmental Disabilities Administration Individual Support Services Grant Award in the amount of $11,485. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Now, medical assistance.
So there are many transitions going forward with the department, or the Developmental Disabilities Administration, and one of those issues is that they are now, we have been, we get reimbursable funding from them currently, and through that process, they give us an allocation, an estimated allocation, and then we bill for services that we're providing. But DDA is billing CMS, and they are the pass-through funder to us, so we didn't have our own medical assistance provider number in the past. They are changing the way that they're doing business, and they're going to now be requiring that we, as Carroll County's Bureau of Aging and Disability Senior Inclusion Program, receive our own medical assistance primary provider number. We've had a site number in the past, but now we're being required to obtain our own medical assistance provider, primary provider number, medical assistance number. With this process, we have to do a very formal online electronic application for this. So we are seeking approval from you today to make that application to have our own medical assistance primary provider number with the Senior Inclusion Program.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
So,
It's good times.
so is there going to be something that they're going to come down with as a result of you having to get your own number? Are you all anticipating that?
Well, we're already very familiar with the system. There's with our older adult waiver program, we have the long-term services and supports. It's a total care system and a billing system. They're already using that on that side of the tracks. Now we're going to be developing and engaging in this system on the senior inclusion program and DDA side as well. It's just that their system is going to look a little bit different from the system that's used in waiver. So right now we're in the training process, and we anticipate by 2020, 2021, or 2022, depending on where the date gets pushed out, that we'll be implementing this new system. But they're setting all these things in place so that can happen.
I'll move the Board of Commissioners approve the Senior Inclusion Program Development Disabilities Administration Medical Assistance Primary Provider Application Submission.
Wow, that was pretty nicely done.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we're going to get a Local Management Board, LMB, update.
Yep. Just when you thought you were having fun.
And Corey's coming up, as is Debbie, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Commissioners, I'd like to introduce Corey Hardinger-Wilt, who is our acting program manager for the Local Management Board, and you know Debbie. We just wanted to come and give you a brief update of what's happening with the LMBs kind of statewide, and to let you know about a request that the local, it's not really the local, it's the statewide LMB Director Association is asking for. So just for some background, in 1996, the Carroll County Board of Commissioners designated the Local Management Board as a unit of local government due to a state mandate that local governments establish and maintain a local result-based interagency service delivery system for children and families, children, youth, and families. So our LMB has been in existence since 1996. The LMB has always, the LMBs have always been funded by the Governor's Office of Children. This year in the fall of 2018, the GOC has been absorbed into the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention. So now, what was a department is now a division. The GOC, it's still called, just to keep things confusing, it's still called the GOC, Governor's Office of Children, but is a division of the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention. When this change was made, the LMBs were told, no changes for the LMB. This is, it's going to be great because we'll have more funding opportunities and grant opportunities. And about 2 weeks ago, when the annual notice of funding availability came out for the LMBs, for the first time, the dollars are not being allocated to the local jurisdictions. It is now a competitive process. So we have been, over the past however many years, Carroll County has been allocated about $500,000 for programs. This year, we're being allocated $65,000 for essentially administrative support, and all of the when we submit application, we'll be submitting for, it'll be a competitive bid, be competitive. What's the total amount statewide, do you know?
$13 million statewide, and that allocation has not changed. It's remained flat, as many of our grants have, but that $13 million will be completely competitive, so all jurisdictions can compete for that pot of money.
Wow.
Right.
Big change.
Big
Yeah.
change.
So what do you do if this you don't get the money additional?
So what will happen is we're currently in the process of completing our community needs assessment for the LMB. We have an LMB meeting on next Tuesday, the 22nd, and we're in the process of completing the FY20 application. Right now, we're funding four programs, and we're discussing how we, as an LMB, so this will be a local management board decision, not a citizen services decision, of how we want to fund the programs going forward. We have suggested that some of the programs kind of work together and combine, so we're funding one large program rather than four smaller ones. But if the state, if the state doesn't give us the funding that we apply for, those programs, those agencies will have to decide if they're going to continue the program and the service with other funds. So the programs aren't coming directly out of the local management board. We're subcontracting with nonprofit providers. So they'd have to, decide if one of the programs is the Connecting Youth program that Lynn was just talking about. That's funded through the GOCCP, and they have a great partnership with HSP. It's been working out very well. There's a great case manager that works with the YSB staff to help those children and youth. But I really can't answer what the nonprofits would do, but there is a chance that the programs would cease.
There will be some geographic consideration given. So while it's competitive and they're going to rank them competitively, then they're going to look to see if the funding is dispersed in a manner that is fair across the state. And GOCCP traditionally does a very good job with that. And we get a lot of money for sheriff and state's attorney from their agencies. So I would hope that at the very least we would get our top program and maybe not, get the lower ones, but that we would at least retain some of the funding because of that provision.
Right. So, as you may have guessed, the Maryland Association of Local Management Boards does not support this change. There have been many conversations about statewide about kind of what to do from here, where to go from here. We have a meeting tomorrow at the state level. However, the Association of Local Management Boards is asking each local LMB to contribute to support efforts. They want to hire a lobbyist for the Association of the LMB to lobby not for the NOFA not to be competitive, as I understand it.
Just to reinstate the allocations as they have been for the last maybe 5 or 7 years. And
I apologize, and I do apologize interrupting. I am thinking this may be something for Commissioner Lance to bring up to the Maryland Association of Counties with MACO as discussion.
They're aware.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure they are.
And
I apologize. Just understanding our impact on it, and he'd be able to articulate that to MACO and leverage their lobbying and activities. So,
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, you done?
No, go ahead.
You look like you're getting ready to, yeah.
No, nothing.
Okay.
So, right.
So you're asking, so you're not done?
Right, I'm asking to discuss whether or not we want to support
Okay.
the association hiring a lobbyist. It would be about approximately $700 that our LMB would contribute. And it is county dollars.
Yeah, that's where I'm having a little bit of an issue.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't use the state dollars,
Right.
so it would definitely be.
I don't know that we've ever used county funds before to hire a lobbyist. That's a little bit of a slippery slope, a little bit.
Not in this way, you're right. So several years ago, the Board of Commissioners hired this very same gentleman that they're suggesting, that the directors are suggesting, to lobby for the county, and then that worked as it did or didn't.
Right.
And then they moved from that to the legislative liaison kind of position in the last 7 years instead.
Yeah.
And we do have Fowler there.
We do.
Right.
Who
Exactly.
advocates for Carroll County on this issue.
Yeah, I just,
Along with Nate Joseph.
knowing the atmosphere down there and standing beside a few of the lobbyists over the last 4 years, I just have a little bit of a challenge with, providing that type of resource to those folks. Although, in the end, in many cases, it is something that is, a positive thing. But for me, it's a little bit of a moral issue as to whether or not we use that kind of money. So, well, have you gotten a sense, Corey, or any Christine, as to what the other counties have done or are going to do?
So they did put this
Hold on
out
a
to a
minute,
vote last week, and they said they need 13 jurisdictions to vote yes in order to move forward for it. In order to move it forward.
Okay.
We have not heard since then how many have voted yes or no. We have heard just kind of some rumors about who's going to vote no, who's going to vote yes. We have a meeting tomorrow. I suspect we may hear more about it.
Okay. What were we going to say, Dennis?
Say,
I'm
why
sorry.
don't we just put this on Mike's radar, tell him that we're interested in looking at this and see what he comes back with before we put money to this? Because from what you just said, it looks like they're looking for $10,000 before they're going to hire this person.
So I've been keeping him up to date as to what's been going on, and spoke to him about it. I kind of forwarded him these emails, and he was kind of neutral about it. He said, not a bad idea,
What's not a bad idea?
hiring the, yeah.
His mistake.
Couldn't hurt, not a bit,
Yeah, it just on the surface, the perception of hiring a lobbyist with county funds is a little bit of a challenge for me, and I think would be for some other folks. Although I think
agree.
the end result should be changing this
Yeah, I agree with
this ridiculous thing
the idea.
that's occurred, which is maybe why I ask the questions when you come in here with changes, because this is what happens when they make these little changes. Big things happen after they make little changes. Like you guys getting getting your own number for that medical assistance thing.
Oh, right.
Hang on. Guess what that's going to mean? Maybe that's the kind of thing I don't like when the state comes down with, okay, now as a result of that, you got to do this. So
I agree with, Commissioner Frazier that, let's leverage, Mike, and see what we could do with Mega. We could bring it up next week, while we're down there, and go from there. But, yeah, it sounds like, we want to raise $9,100 to hire a lobbyist to go do this one activity when we may have the tools already in place to leverage the things we need to do.
Sure. The other thing the association is considering doing is now collecting dues from the LMBs, in which case then they would use the dues to pay for what.
Their own lobbyists.
So see, that's a little bit different route to get to where they're trying to get.
Right.
So then they kind of wouldn't be using county funds, although we all know where the dues would be coming from. You're not going to pay them out of your pocket, Corey, I'm pretty sure.
No.
But if you want to.
No, not
So-
at this point, no.
Yeah. All right, so why don't we just, can we table this? Can we table this request right now? Because if it
We haven't
becomes,
given a due date, right?
No, I mean, there
think we'll
doesn't,
find out more
yeah.
tomorrow.
I mean,
It's
if
been
it be-
unclear.
Okay, if it becomes crucial that may be the only route of travel they've got down there, then I might, or my colleagues may decide to change our position on this. But kind of out of the gate, I think I'm getting a sense that all of us are not
You
comfortable.
have support, just not financial.
Yeah.
That's right, the present time.
Yeah, where have you heard that before? So,
Commissioners, Mike Fowler weighed in and he said that LMB has been, the LMB issue has been discussed at NACO and they'll be discussing it.
okay. All right, well, let us get a feel for that on Wednesday, and
Okay.
we'll come back and then maybe I'll get in touch with you guys and share with you what's going on. Or Mike will, but we'll keep abreast of what
Keep in
that
touch.
is. And then and I would suggest that we just table the request at this point until we get more info.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
Has to go on this pile. Okay.
So you're saying Mike's got nothing to do down in Napa, so he's watching our stuff? Come on. What's that guy doing? Hope you heard that, Mike. Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today, thanks. All right, next on the agenda is a text amendment to the IR district. And do we have public comment on this?
Okay, I'm not surprised.
No? Okay.
No, what?
All right.
I am surprised, whoa.
Okay.
Okay.
So Linda Eisenberger, Acting
Yes.
Director of Planning, and Mary Lane, our planner.
So you started, you were getting ready to say, no, you started with us, now you're gonna end with us for the day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think it could be a better day than that.
Keep going.
So today we're here to review with you a proposed text amendment for the IR district ahead of the comprehensive rezoning. On December 21st, Schaefer and Schaefer LLP submitted a proposed text amendment to the industrial restricted zone. The purpose of this amendment would be for the allowance of a brewery and IR zone land. Pursuant to sections 158, 134 of the county code requires that commissioner shall refer zoning text amendments and comprehensive rezoning to the planning commission. So the letter was the application process. So the next step would be for you all to refer, if you agree with the text amendment ahead of the comp rezoning, to the planning commission. We would bring this before the planning commission for them to have discussions and recommend a proposal moving forward.
So we give it to them so they can give it back to us.
Correct.
That's what I thought you said.
Yep, that is correct.
I'm just
I thought I was
doing it in
stupid.
layman's terms.
Nope.
So-
That is, you've got it in a nutshell.
So, at this point, anyone can make application to have a text amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, that's still open, and that was one of the second motions that we were going to ask the board to take after a motion for this item,
Okay.
which is part of the briefing paper.
Correct.
I see
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I just. Okay. I
And
guess
there-
my question is, if it's, if you're not represented by an attorney, can you put an application in? I mean, what's the?
Anyone
where
can
are
come
we here?
forward with
Okay.
the text amendment. Anyone from you all recommending something that you see with the county code to any citizen and even to the planning commission. But it has to go through the planning commission, and no matter how it is asked for, we would always come before this body to have you send it back to the planning commission for them to review and make a recommendation. So anyone can come forward to do that.
Okay.
However, do you want that to continue after this particular effort? Because as you know, we're moving through the comprehensive rezoning process, text and map. So if this door is opened up beyond this, we could potentially see others coming in to get ahead of this effort. Then all of the work that we've done in our work sessions, if things are contrary to what you all have recommended, then the reconciliation could be problematic at the
Which
end.
is why I was sort of asking the question, because it creates a little bit of a challenge here. And I don't know that we want to.
What challenge?
Well, we're going to have to. Is it always going to be that they can put in, or at some point they're going to stop? Or
Well,
we're gonna-
so,
right?
Well, that would be, that's why staff would be recommending that a deferral of any future zoning text amendments and map amendments happen during this comprehensive rezoning process. So just before we did the Freedom Plan, one of the things that you all did was you allowed, we sent out a letter and we made notice that we're embarking on the Freedom Plan for no one to come forward. And so two map amendments came forward at that time and had a piecemeal rezoning request heard. Do you recall that back in October? And then after that, a motion was made then to defer any further action regarding that. So this would almost be in that same vein, now just for the comprehensive rezoning.
That's right. We did that as a result of
So we're at the same step, I guess, for this as we're
Yes.
then. So it would be appropriate to do this.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yeah, in my, thoughts is, this is a good idea to allow for this change. But again, as I think Commissioner Boucher said earlier in the day, Pandora's box, we do not want to open. And we want to be able to allow for this, move forward with this, but then ease into closing that box and finish the rezoning. That's the
correct. And this is for one zone, for one particular very succinct issue with regards to breweries, specifically in the IR zone.
Which I appreciate.
Do we have a sample of the product before we vote on it?
Wink, wink. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to make a motion, please.
Well,
I was going to move the county commissioners refer the IR proposed text amendment to the planning commission for the review and recommendation.
I second.
okay, that's the first motion.
Yes.
Everybody understand that? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Now you're asking.
Now I'm asking for the commissioners to defer all future zoning text and map amendment requests while the comprehensive rezoning effort is underway.
So we open the box, now we close the box.
No.
It's just the same thing. we did
Question
with the
on
Freedom
this.
Plan.
How long will this take and close things?
Well, as you know, we're working through the commercial industrial. So the text portion's moving on the commercial industrial and employment campus. However long it takes us to work through that to your satisfaction, after the text is how you want it to be, I would suggest we send out a recommended text before we even have a public hearing. We would have some open meetings for the citizens to come, and even prior to a hearing, in case there's things that come out of the word work, so to speak, then we would come back with you on another work session, perhaps, make any revisions you feel necessary, go to a public hearing, then the map changes would have to occur after that. So it's several months off just, I think, for the commercial industrial employment campus to come to fruition. Then we have to move on to the residential, which we are currently working on internally, then the ag and conservation.
So there could be someone unaware of this and they come in wanting to apply and we hold them up for
Correct.
a year, maybe more. Good.
Which is where I was going.
Okay.
Because we're allowing this in this instance. Suppose there's somebody tomorrow that wants to do the same thing. Now we've decided to defer. So what, we're allowing this one, but yet we're not allowing the one tomorrow?
Again, I think it's a particular issue at hand. So, I mean, that's up to your decision to make, obviously, here today. But
Do you anticipate any others?
it's so hard. You just don't know what's going to
You don't
come
know what's
forward.
coming in.
Correct. But again, I think especially with the text amendment, since we're in the middle of text, it could be particularly challenging if many of these come forward.
I understand that, Linda, but we're allowing this one to go forward.
And that's,
But we're still operating under the
haven't made the
old regulations on this.
voted yet.
Well, I understand that. There hasn't been a motion, but that's the challenge that I have. We're opening the box for this, but yet if somebody else comes in tomorrow, you can't. That seems very unfair to me.
So the other way of looking at it is keeping the box open and we make those decisions by exception or as we're doing this. This is a good idea to allow for, again, smart growth where it makes sense. And the concern that you have, the staff has, is that it could flood with changes while we're going through the process.
Correct.
Which I appreciate. I do not believe that's going to be happening very often, if at all. If it does, we could take it up case by case as we're doing the deliberation now.
But
I agree with that. I want to limit this.
Okay.
I don't want to shut the door.
That's fine.
I understand it's extra work, and I get all that, but it's very, it
Certainly.
appears as being very unfair.
I don't think it's the extra work that is the problem. I think the problem could be that if someone wants a text amendment, then the recommendation differs, and then this body approves something that they've already worked through that may be different than what has been approved for the comp rezoning. Then we could present us with future problems.
So it wasn't unfair when we did it for the Freedom District, but it's unfair for now? I don't understand. I just don't get the difference there.
Well, if that's your mindset, we shouldn't have approved this.
We did exactly the same thing for the Freedom District, where we approved something and then stopped and said nothing else. Exactly the same thing. That's
But
why
we
I
didn't
asked-
allow one
that's why I-
person, we didn't allow
we
one.
did. That's why I asked that question just before we went into this.
Just to be clear with regard to the Freedom Plan, it was sort of a general notice, this is your last chance. We're gonna issue
I understand,
referral
but that's what
at
we
a
did.
certain time.
My point is, somebody didn't come in and ask for an amendment.
Well, as a result. of
We
our
just said,
Right.
we're done right now.
Yes and no. We solicited folks. If you want to come in, you have 2 months, whatever it is,
Right.
come in. And then as of October 30th, whatever the date was.
Yes.
We're going to close it off and everything else will be deferred until we're done with the plan.
Well, why don't we do the same thing here? Why don't we put the notification out? You have X amount of time, whatever you're comfortable with. My opinion would be shorter the better, but whatever you're comfortable with, if you want to make a change or make the change, we're coming within the next month. After that, it's closed.
if we don't have a time frame on the text amendment and finishing that, it's hard to.
Yeah,
set a
but
time frame for everything else. I know.
it was no different with the Freedom Plan. We didn't have to actually know when that was going to get finished.
No, I
And we
agree.
did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not arguing
Right.
arguing with you, Dennis. I guess my point is, if you don't have a nice lawyer behind you, you're.
Well, they didn't.
Who's that?
Just kidding, guys.
No, so again, I think.
If it's an individual,
Right.
it's not fair.
Right. Well, I say, I'll make a motion that we leave I don't have my book up, but what would you call it?
Defer all future zoning text and map amendments.
No.
Request law.
No.
No, I don't want to do that.
Well, I know.
I want to leave it
that-
open.
That's the basis.
Let's leave open future amendment for text zoning for 30 days. County Commission, well, let's leave open for future zoning text and map amendment request for additional 30 days. And at that time, we could close it off. Is that way, anybody that's thinking about making an amendment or they have 30 days to get it in, we look it over at that time, okay, then we're done. Then people working on the updates to these things don't have to worry about blending them together at the end.
See, I do not agree with that.
All right, well, wait a minute. That's a motion, right?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
I
Is there a
apologize.
second?
Be like 4 of them, I would think.
Hearing none, that motion fails. Now,
I apologize. I believe the first motion, the request in discussion, I believe we should go forward with regarding the amendment with the microbrewery. I do not believe it's necessary to, as we're discussing, close that box. I think we're already making those decisions up here where you're not going to be making this. It's on us to then say yes, and it's going to be a case-by-case issue. The good ideas are going to come in, and I don't believe there's a timeline associated with good ideas, and we shouldn't look at the timeline. So I'm just saying, let's stick to the first. Do not deal with the second, and we will do it on case by case.
So that's for text amendment would be more case by case, but if someone comes in with a zoning map amendment, we would have to process that then that would not be really at the discretion of the board. They would just come through with their application, and that would have to be processed.
Correct.
Again, for me, I don't see it as being a ton of these requests. I really don't. I think this is a project that has, some importance and some legitimacy behind it. So I don't see 50 of them being out there, or maybe even 5. I just don't see it. And I get what you're saying, because it could be a challenge that we make decisions on something that we haven't made decisions on yet. That's kind of the way to look at it.
Right.
But I just, out of fairness, I can't do it. I just don't think that's fair. We'll just deal with it as they come in, if we have them.
Okay.
And hopefully maybe we won't have any because of that challenge that we see. But that's how I feel.
So the initial motion was read, and then it was also seconded.
No, there was
but
not.
But it wasn't voted on.
There was.
But the motion was made.
Wait a minute.
First one.
The first one?
Correct.
We voted on that one.
There's been no motion in a second.
Yeah, we voted on the specific, the specific one. This motion died. So at this point, there is no motion.
Correct.
We're just going to continue to operate in the way in which we have been. Okay?
All right. Very good.
Okay.
All right. If I get 50, I'm coming.
I know, and you're going to shake your finger and go, "I told you."
One at a time.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. We'll deal.
Understood.
We'll deal with that when if it happens.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We are at the end of the day. And I don't have anything else on here. We don't have, I know there might be some signature things.
Just the resolutions that you guys passed today.
Okay. Other than that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. You going to second it, Eric?
I'll second it in a heartbeat.
Want to remind everyone we're in for some interesting weather over the weekend. Little statistic, over 6,000 people die every year in the United States due to winter-related accidents. Slow down. We are adjourned.
Thank you for that good advice.